Hello all, welcome to Quantifiers. So what's up? What's going on? So how's the CAT preparation is going on? Right. So we just thought of giving you a couple of break for a from CAT rather, I would say. So I thought of let's do something that is slightly different from CAT. So monotonous ho jata hai na. I mean like reading RCs and other things, para summary, para jumbles. So entirely comprehensive base paper. So this Sunday we thought of giving a break because yes, of course the OMETs are in the pipeline. Some of the colleges forms are even out, right? So that's the reason that we thought that let's discuss a little bit of OMATs as a syllabus, like specifically your SNAP and NMAT exam, and let's understand what is different from CAT in case when we talk about the VARC section, right? Now, so about this particular section, so अगर हम बात करें आई डोंट मतलब मैथ्स एंड दिया एंड उसमें इतना फर्क नहीं रहेगा, लेकिन वर्बल के अंदर आई वुड से that there is a stark difference between what comes in CAT and what comes in an OMATs, right? So CAT ka paper, I always call it as an open book exam, right? Now, why this is an open book exam? Because it's an entirely comprehensive based paper, right? सब कुछ जो मुझे आंसर चाहिए जो भी है, this everything that is lies in front of me only, okay? It's just the understanding of the passage, understanding of the paragraph that I need to focus on when it comes to CAT as an exam, right? लेकिन इसके ही अगर contrast में in case if we look at an OMATs exam, okay, so today from the OMATs point of view we'll be just limiting ourselves to SNAP and NMAT, right? So we'll not be getting into that and the other things. So SNAP and NMAT का अगर मैं VARC section की बात करें, so I would have to call them as a vocabulary and grammar intensive paper. Okay, that does not mean कि इन टॉपिक इसके अंदर RCs नहीं आता है, right? But इसके अंदर these papers are dominated by vocab and grammar. Okay, CAT is a game of accuracy, whereas the SNAP and NMAT, and specifically about the SNAP exam, it's more about the speeds. Okay, so that is the case. So यहाँ पे you're gonna find those topics which you can hardly solve in like fraction of seconds. You can solve that. So there is a difference. So CAT के अंदर explicitly या directly आपके पास में vocab और grammar के questions नहीं आते हैं, right? But आपके पास में जो ये OMATs है, SNAP और NMAT है, the two topics which are going to play a vital role in your papers will be the vocabulary, grammar, okay? And in case if I talk about the reasoning part, VARC का क्या portion reasoning में आता है, then of course it is also dominated by verbal reasoning. Okay, so these are some of the topics that is slightly different from what comes in CAT exam. Okay, so let's quickly go through all these topics and all the new topics that will be doing or dealing with this today, right? So this is how SNAP general English pattern or the format looks like. So generally SNAP gives you 15 questions from general English. So this is what the trend is indicating, right? Now the topics that SNAP gives us is reading comprehension, right? It's not as lengthy as the reading comprehension for CAT paper, right? CAT जितना lengthy नहीं होता है, उतना tricky भी नहीं होता है. There are short passages, easy questions, lot of direct questions, okay? Not much of that reasoning, inferential based question. So वहाँ पे level of difficulty में there is a difference, right? Next up, I told you is a verbal reasoning, right? So verbal reasoning में आपके implicit assumptions, आपका assertion and reason, cause and effect, strong and weak arguments. So these are all part of it, right? Now verbal ability include analogies, right? So analogies, questions, right? We'll be discussing them question. For example, cat is to kitten as dog is to what, right? So there exhibit some sort of relation between cat and kitten, and the similar relationship we need to figure for dog and so puppy is the answer, right? As I already told you that it will going to have grammar components. I remember that couple of years down the line the SNAP paper was entirely based on grammar, right? सारा paper ही उन्होंने grammar intensive दिया था. There was no vocabulary, no reading comprehension, but last 2 years they have changed the trend, right? Then the vocabulary based topics, antonyms and synonyms, right? Parajumbles, but the difference part from the CAT and the SNAP parajumbles is that they're easy, first of all, yes, and this topic will going to come with options, okay? With options, of course, we know that with options that this topic becomes comparatively easier because the probability of the correct answer actually reduced to the number of the options, right? Then we have is the fill in the blanks. So fill in the blanks is again a vocabulary oriented topic, similar sounding words. Okay, for example, advice and advice. Okay, or you can call it as your principle and principle, to be very easy, to give you very easy versions, right? So these are some of the topics, like in case if you're targeting for symbiosis colleges, these are some of the verbal topics that you should actually clarify, right? So now you can see here that all these topics, other than the reading comprehension, none of the topic is very time consuming. Okay, other than para jumbles a little bit, it will going to take some amount of the time, but then again the options are being set in such a manner that they give you visible cues. Okay, so yeah, hello, hi. Okay, so now let's see what comes in NMAT language skills. Okay, so NMAT का language skills का अगर हम section का बात करें, so generally what they do is that they give you 36 questions, and these 36 questions you need to solve in 28 minutes, right? This is what again the trend is indicating. Broadly, we can say that the NMAT syllabus is divided into 3-4 topics. Now, this verbal reasoning is not a part of your language skills, but it is actually a part of your reasoning section. Okay, but otherwise it's actually divided into 3 broader topics, just like your snap. We're going to have the reading comprehension. Okay, now reading comprehension, it will going to have all those topics which you have seen in your cat also. Okay, again the difficulty level is comparatively easier as compared to cat. So you're going to have reading comprehension, you're going to have para jumbles, odd one out, jumble sentences is almost same, para summary, right? The second topic is grammar. So grammar mein you're going to have sentence correction. You have to have, you got to get the questions on the basics of grammar, like noun, pronoun ke rules pe questions aata hai, right? Identifying the error, tenses pe question, present, past tense ke rules, and then you have the phrasal verbs. Okay, so phrasal verbs like get up, get out. Okay, so stand in, stand at. Okay, so the combination of verb plus preposition, that makes a phrasal verb. So when we'll be solving the questions, we'll be discussing the different question types, we'll be taking up these phrasal verbs in detail, right? Next up, what we have in the case of our NMAT is a vocabulary. Vocabulary में जो questions आते हैं, you've seen. So NMAT, we could see that there are a lot of questions based on vocabulary, right? So synonyms, antonyms, close test, fill in the blanks, idiomatic expression. So these are, so more or less you can see that the syllabus of NMAT and SNAP slightly overlaps. Okay, with just a difference here that it also keeps like quite a few topics, okay, that actually aligns with the cat as a syllabus, like, so that's the case. Next up, what we have is a verbal reasoning. Verbal reasoning may, so you got a questions on statement and argument, you got the questions on assumptions, inference, course of action, little bit of critical reasoning, not that extensive as a critical reasoning as you get in your ZAT, okay, but definitely some little bit, some small sets of the questions on critical reasoning. Okay, so this is how we can see now that in comparison to CAT as a paper, both of these exams, the SNAP and MAT exam, okay, so they are dominated by all the other topics, right, other than just being focusing on the comprehensive base paper. Okay, so 2-3 topics that we need to keep into consideration in case if we are targeting SNAP or NMAT is that we need to work on our vocabulary. Okay, second is the case is that we need to work on our grammar. Okay, and the third topic that we need to work on is our verbal reasoning. Okay, so all these topic used to be a part of CAT also, okay, but CAT over a period of a time has shifted more towards a comprehension based paper rather than being a vocabulary or grammar intensive paper. Okay, so with this note, I hope you are clear with all the types of the topics that you need to touch when we talk about NMAT and SNAP as an exam. So any queries here in the topic types or any particular question or any particular topic that you want to understand? So we'll be dealing with all the questions from all the topics that I've listed here. So we'll be doing actual paper questions. Okay, but before that, in case if you have any queries regarding your this topics. Okay, then in that case, let's go for the very first question of this topic. Okay, Now, this is a topic question on an idiomatic and phrasal verbs, right? Not phrasal verbs, okay? Idioms and phrases. Now, what happened in the case of the idioms and phrases is that Hindi में हम इनको मुहावरे लोकोक्तियाँ बोलते हैं, right? So English में we call them as idioms and phrases. So what is the question setter does in these kind of the questions is that he gives, या तो वो कोई idiom लिख देगा. For example, उसने लिख दिया crocodile's tears, okay? Then he can give you the options and can ask you to find the meaning of that idiom, okay? Second type of the way that the question setter has given these kinds of the question is that he used the particular idiom in a sentence, okay? And based on your understanding of the sentence, you need to figure out what could be the meaning of this idiom, okay? So quickly do both the questions. I'll give you a minute or two and then we'll discuss both of the questions. I hope that you're solving this idioms question. Okay, so 1 is 4. And what about B? Okay, let's discuss this. Okay, so yeah, so that's what I was telling you ki idioms and phrases ka whenever you get the questions, no, you don't have to take it in a literal sense, right? Matlab the idiom is that it's raining cats and dogs, right? So हमें उसको literal sense में नहीं लेना है कि आसमान से बारिश हो रही है cats and dogs की, which is not even feasible, right? So when we talk about the questions on idioms and phrases, there is always an underneath meaning to it, okay, which is not being conveyed literally by words. So when we say crocodile's tears, why are you shedding crocodile's tear? That does not mean कि crocodile रो रहा है, right? So there's always an underneath meaning. So कभी भी literal meaning को don't pick that as an option, right? So to turn over a new leaf, but again you can make some sort of the logical connection, right? कि turn over a new leaf हो रहा है, नई चीज आ रही है, turn हो रहे हैं. So what could be the case here? So what I've got the answer is that the A ka, the correct answer is 4. Absolutely correct. So to turn over a new leaf actually stands for to change the old habits and adopt new ones, okay? And these new ones are basically the more responsible activities or the habits that you'll be adopting, right? To take with a grain of salt, sorry. So what's the meaning? So 2 is 1, 2 is 2, 2 is 2. Let's see what is this, okay? The correct answer to this question is 1, okay? To take with a grain of salt is to take with some sort of reservation. I mean, like you're not fully convinced about it, you're a little bit skeptical about it, you're doubting, okay? Matlab you're not very sure कि ये सब सही चल रहा है, okay? You have that skeptical thing in your mind, so that is to take with a grain of salt. मतलब थोड़ा सा मेरे दिमाग में वो है, right? So to take with some sort of reservations, right? So what should be the strategy when we talk about idioms and phrases based question? The only strategy is to actually learn them by your heart, okay? कोई और तरीका नहीं है. I mean, like there is no commonality between the idioms कि मैं बोलूँगी ऐसे कर लो तो आपको सारे याद हो जाएंगे. तो just like a vocabulary words, okay, you have to learn them by heart. But yes, trust me on this part that learning the idioms is very easy. I mean, like अब आपने एक बार पढ़ लिया that to take with a grain of a salt, we had a discussion over this particular idiom, and in case you can use them in your day-to-day communication, okay, that will going to sit in your mind permanently, right? So it takes less efforts for you to learn the idioms and phrases, okay? But again you need to see this. I mean, like I leave it to your discretion कि आपको कितना efforts किस चीज में अभी put करना है. I mean, like is this the college that you're targeting for? How many questions come from idioms and phrases in the paper? you will you be able to learn all of them, right? So ये कुछ आपको prudent decisions you have to take it from your side, right? But the only way to work on these is to just pick up a list of the idioms and phrases, okay? Just try and learn three idioms every day, okay? Starting from today, I'm sure that in between your CAT preparation also, you can take out some amount of the time, and hardly how much of the time does these type of the questions actually take for you to learn, right? So these are some sort of the questions that you can see in your paper that are based on idioms and phrases. Okay, let's try this question now. So you have to read and interpret the question by yourself, and then I'm going to pitch in about it. Okay, otherwise I'll not poke my nose. So I'll give you a minute to solve all the 4 questions. Okay, shall we? So I've got a couple of answers: 1A, 2A, 3B, 4D. 1A, 2A, 3D, 4D. Okay, let's discuss these questions. Okay, so these are simple questions, and now from the instructions, you've seen that you have to pick the one that is closest in meaning. So, closest in meaning are your synonyms, right? So, dhyan rakhna hai, you don't get confused between what is a synonym and what is an antonym. So, S stands for same and S stands for synonym. So, same wale, okay? So, what is the meaning of the word that is similar to grandiloquent, okay? Now, for those who are not well versed with what are the root words, okay? अगर आपने vocabulary को root word से करा होगा, then these particular all the 4 questions would have become a piece of cake for you, right? Now, what is the case is that कि grand is this. Lock actually refers to speak or speech, okay? So, grand speech, बड़ा चढ़ा के बोलना, okay? That is basically a grandiloquent. So, we've got a lot of word which has root words lock in it, loquacious, eloquent, circumlocution, घुमा फिरा के बात करना, right? So these are the root words. I mean, like that is in case if you learn the words with the help of root words, they pay you off. So the correct answer to this question is high sounding. Okay, the person who speaks in a very pompous manner, exaggerated manner, that is basically a grandiloquent. Okay, hierarchy, again we can see here that archy stands for rule. Okay, patriarchy, matriarchal, okay, so all these kinds of the word. The correct answer to this question, hierarchy, now ranking, okay, so arrangement on the basis of the ranking, that is hierarchy. Manipulation, okay, now many is actually used for your hands, okay, so manipulate karna kisi ko skillfully handle karna, okay, that is the case. I mean, like you handle him in such a manner, usko is tarike se manipulate kara ki jo bhi tumhara interest tha, he or she was that particular person is doing that, okay, so that is manipulation. Now many se dekho agar words dekhe, manicure is a word, okay, manufacture, right? So manuscript for that matter. So this is actually a root word that actually stands for hands, okay. Necrophilia, now philia, in case if you know, it actually is again a root word that stands for love, okay. So philosophy, love for wisdom, okay, and then you got a philatelist, love for stamps, okay. Necro is a root word that actually stands for dead bodies, okay. So the correct answer here is inclinations towards dead bodies, right? So now can you tell me what is the meaning of the word necrophobia? I'm sure you all know that. What is necrophobia? Yes, okay. So now that we know that the necro is a root word that actually stands for dead bodies, and phobia, hydrophobia, claustrophobia, arachnophobia, okay. So phobia is a root word that actually stands for fear, okay. So fear of dead bodies is basically necrophobia, but here the philia is a root word that actually stands for love, okay. Now this is a one interesting way. So you've seen a couple of questions in your snap paper which were actually based on vocabulary that revolves around the root words, okay. And the book that I always recommend for it is a word power made easy. So in case if you are feeling that learning random word is giving you a trouble, you're not able to remember it, then this is a one book that I will definitely recommend for you to learn the words with the help of root words, okay. Is that clear? Any doubts, any queries here? Absolutely perfect, right? Try these questions. So there are 4 questions on the slide. For each of the question, you need to read the instructions carefully. I'll give you a minute or two and then we're going to have the discussion around these words. Shall we discuss quickly? So understand these are all speed games, right? Okay, so let's discuss. So Satyam has given us the answers. Okay, let's discuss all these questions. Okay. So we can see the different types of varieties in these questions where the vocabulary is being tested. So in the last 2 slides, what we have seen is the vocabulary in the form of synonyms, vocabulary in the forms of idioms and phrases. Now let's see all these type of questions. Now again, the question setter is actually testing you on whether you know the meaning of the words. Okay, so question किसी भी format में आ जाए, अगर आपको questions का words का meanings पता है, then I'm sure that you'll be able to handle all the variety of the questions there, right? So the very first question is actually asking you to choose the word which is opposite in meaning to the word, right? So opposite are your antonyms. So we just saw that similar are your synonyms. So opposites are your antonyms, right? So grating, what is the opposite? What is the meaning of the word grating, by the way, before we get into opposite? So what is the meaning of the word grating? Okay, so the meaning of the word grating is when you are sounding harsh and unpleasant. Okay, so harsh and unpleasant sound is basically grating. Okay, now the opposite kya hoga iska? This now becomes easy. Now you know the meaning of the words, then the question becomes very easy. The correct answer to this question is musical. Okay, rest all of them are actually the synonyms of the word grating. Okay, so grating is sounding harsh and unpleasant, right? A window or a flat frame? No, sir, that's not the meaning of the word grating. Okay, so musical and in this context. Okay, now let's see the next question. So this is actually known as one word substitution. You remember हम बचपन में करते थे अनेक शब्दों का एक शब्द in your Hindi, right? So similarly in English we also have a one word substitution. So one who does not believe in God, atheist. Okay, so one who does not believe in any rule. Okay, anarchy. So one who believes in a single rule, monarchy, right? So one word substitution. So this was a question based on it. So here the question setter, what the question setter does is that he has given you the meaning of the word. Okay, और अब आपको word find करना है कि किस word का meaning है. So it's the opposite. अभी तक what we were doing is that the question setter was giving us the word and we were supposed to find the meaning, and this question he has given me the meaning and we have to find the word. Okay, what's the answer to this question? So let me see. So 2B, 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 2A. Okay, yeah, the correct answer to this question is bow. Okay, so it's not bower or this, it's bow. Okay, so a shady place under the trees is actually known as bow. Now can you see that when you are actually learning vocabulary and something, you can actually associate na? Okay, don't take vocabulary ki मेरे को बहुत pressurize होके करना पड़ेगा. The more you play with the words, the more you become comfortable with the words, right? Similarly, इधर हमने क्या देखा? A shady place under tree. How we can remember them is bow कर रहे हैं, bow कर रहे हैं. Okay, so this is how you can actually remember. Okay, debonair is actually used for a cheerful, confident, and a stylish, especially for the boys, right? Government is basically a food lover, and fugitive is something that is let's say running away from legal or police or something, so that person is known as fugitive, right? Now choose from among the alternatives the one which will be suitable substitute. So again it's a one word substitution question, but now here what's the difference is that it is just standalone, and this is here it is actually used in a sentence. Okay, used in a sentence or a contextual meaning of the words are comparatively easy to figure out, right? Now why they are easy to figure out is that because अब आपको पता लग जाएगा context से, अगर नहीं भी idea होगा लेकिन context की understanding से you can come to the closest meaning of it, rough idea लग जाता है. Okay, so marriage of the princess with the commoner caused a furore among the royalty. Okay, so क्या बोलेंगे? The marriage of the princess with the commoner. Okay, the correct answer here is misalliance. Okay, so miss you can call it as wrong. Okay, alliance is a union, so wrong alliance. Okay, wrong union, misalliance. Okay, it cannot be elopement. Okay, elopement to भाग जाना है ना. It cannot be romance. Okay, so that is the case. The closest option here was, and the reason that I put this question is that I think so this was a snap question. Mesalliance. Okay, now mesalliance, I believe it's a French word. You need to check it once, right? It also stands for the same. Okay, the meaning of both of them are same, but in the case of our paper, what we get into is the Britishers English. Okay, so that's the case that we pick up standard English format, not the other foreign language, unless and until the question is actually asking us to pick the foreign language. Okay, so that's the case, and that is the reason that the correct answer to this question is misalliance. Okay, question number 4. 4 words are given in question, out of which one word is correctly spelled. Okay, so when we talk about vocabulary, it's not just the word and the meaning that we need to focus on it, we also need to focus on the spellings. I'm sure that this was an easy question. So let's say what is the answer? 4C, 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 4C to everyone. Yes, what is stumble? Tumble is to fall down, okay, without like just you're not hurting yourself, okay, you tumble down, right? What is this? What should be the correct spelling of this word? Tussle. What is the correct spelling? It's actually Tussle. Tussle stands for a fight, okay. Tussle उन दोनों के बीच में we say this is tunnel, okay. Tunnel, right? And this is trouble, Trouble, right? So spellings पे भी vocabulary के questions आते हैं. I am sure that you are through with this. Any queries here in this slide? No? Okay. So the next questions that we can see from the vocabulary in my SNAP and NMAT exams are the analogies based questions, and they play a vital importance. I mean, like, jab vocabulary cat mein bhi aati thi na, so this used to be one of the favorite topic of the question setter. And abhi bhi SNAP, ZAT and ZAT maybe in fact, and NMAT ke andar you can see a couple of questions based on analogies. Okay, before we get into all these questions, let's actually understand कि एनालॉजी के क्वेश्चंस होते क्या है. ओके, फॉर एग्जांपल आई हैव जस्ट गिवन यू अ ग्लिम्प्स ऑफ इट. जैसे कैट इज टू किटन एज डॉग इज टू व्हाट, राइट? सो कैट एंड किटन एक दूसरे से कनेक्टेड है. व्हाट इज द रिलेशन बिटवीन कैट एंड किटन? व्हाट इज द रिलेशन बिटवीन कैट एंड किटन? Yeah, it's a baby, it's an offspring. So we can say that the kitten is an offspring of cat. Okay. So similarly, dog ka offspring kaun hoga? Puppy, right? So there exhibits a relation between a question pair, and the similar relationship you need to look from the option set. Okay. So this is this analogies questions. Analogies by its meaning actually stands for similarity. Okay. So cat and kitten, here food and gourmet, there is some sort of the relationship that we need to figure from the options pair. I hope that the things are clear now. So I'll give you a minute on these questions on analogies. Okay, Prateek, let's wait for others. Okay, shall we? Okay, so Prateek is saying 3C. Okay, let's get into these questions. Okay. So I've played a trick with you in these questions and you all fall trap for it. Let's figure it out. Okay, कि क्या हम ट्रैप में कौन से ट्रैप में फंस गए. एंड दिस इज व्हाट जस्ट द क्वेश्चन सेटर डज एंड दिस इज व्हाट आई हैव डन. बल्कि आई हैव नॉट क्रिएटेड दैट एंजाइटी ऑफ द एग्जाम्स राइट नाउ, राइट? आई हैव गिवन यू द लिबर्टी ऑफ द फ्री टाइम आल्सो इन दिस केस. लेट्स सी द वेरी फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन. सो फूड इज टू gourmet. Okay, so what is this food is to gourmet? So gourmet is basically a person, you can say, who is an expert. Okay, who is an expert and who knows different taste. Okay, who is an expert in the food category, right? Who knows all these culinary arts and other things, right? So that's the case. So food in a gourmet, gourmet is basically an expert, and the correct answer here is art and connoisseur. Okay, so connoisseur is again a person who has an expertise in art, right? It cannot be book and a critic. Okay, critic is not an expert in a book. Okay, he just reviews the book, maybe or may not. He or she may or may not be an expert here. Okay, sports and fans. Now fans are passionate about a sport. Okay, but do they carry the same level of expertise as the persons who are playing the sports or the coaches? We doubt that. Okay, whereas our question statement is basically more about an expert, right? It cannot be craft and a skill. Okay, craft learning or doing a craft is one sort of the skill. Okay, but food is not a one type of gourmet. Okay, so that's the case. Now the correct answer here, okay, the correct answer here was B, right? Now second, divide and unite, right? So a very first and a quick glance of it tells us that Both of them are kind of opposite to each other. Okay, they are antonyms. So divide, separates, unite, joins. Okay, so by that logic, split and apart, it is the pair of synonyms. We can strike it off. Okay, chasm and gap, we can again also separate it because they both are synonyms. Okay, the chasm is a deep hole or something, so again something that separates, gap create karta hai, right? We are left with the two close options. One is marriage and divorce, and the another is fission and fusion. Okay, we know marriage is a join, and maybe divorce is a separation. Okay, and what is fission and fusion? You remember physics mein? So let me just read the options. So fission and fusion. So fission is basically splitting, right? And fusion is basically joining. Okay, the correct answer here is option number C. Okay, so a lot of you have given me this, but a lot of you again has picked up the option number B, right? Here we need to see that divide actually separates, whereas unite actually joins. Okay, marriage to join in है यार, वैसे join क्या है? Okay, I mean, like, there is no sense also. Divorce definitely carry that meaning of separates. Okay, but order ulta pulta hai, right? Either the order fission is splitting, divide is splitting, okay, unite is joining, fusion is joining. Okay, the trick that I've actually played with you was in the question number 3. Okay, I changed the language of the question, and none of you, okay, none of you try to actually interpret and read that what is written here. Okay, you just assumed in your brain कि अच्छा यार सबके instructions same है. अगर सारे questions के instructions same थे, so why I've given a separate instructions for question number 3? Okay, so here you need to pick up that pair of the option which does not exhibit relationship similar to that expressed. Okay, so what we were doing in analogy so far is that, yeah, so fission is separation and fusion is union. Yes, Pankita, right? So that is the case, right? So what we were doing here is that we were picking up that option pair which exhibits the similar relationship, right? Either हमें क्या करना था? We need to find something that does not exhibit the same relationship. So stubborn is jiddi, okay? Adaptable is that who is molding himself or herself as per the situation, right? So both of them were the pair of opposites. Okay, now let's see stupid and bright. Again, can we see that they are opposite? Okay, and inherent and extraneous. So inherent is inbuilt, extraneous is your outside se liya hai. Okay, so again this is basically a pair of opposite. Friend and enemy, this is also opposite. Okay, and the another trick that I played in question to make this tricky is that I put the word amoral, and I'm sure that most of you don't know that opposite of moral is immoral. Okay, अमोरल इज अ पर्सन जिसको कुछ पता ही नहीं होता है. ओके, ना तो उसके लिए कोई चीज मोरल है, ना तो उसके लिए कोई चीज इमोरल है. ओके, अ पर्सन हु स्टैंड्स न्यूट्रल इन द केस ऑफ मोरालिटी, दैट पर्टिकुलर पर्सन इज एक्चुअली नोन एज अमोरल. ओके, moral is who is doing all the righteous path, following everything. Okay, immoral is who is doing something that goes against morality. Okay, that is immoral. So the opposite of moral should be immoral, एंड अमोरल इज दैट जिसको मोरालिटी से कोई फर्क नहीं है, उसको है ही नहीं कि मॉरल क्या है क्या नहीं है. I don't believe in this concept. So that particular person is amoral. Okay, so they were not the opposite pairs, and hence the B is your answer. Did you get this question? So everybody, 3 ka. So amoral, not following any moral rules. Okay, immoral, opposite to moral. So that was the click. So you know vocabulary, meaning pata hai, you'll be easily able to test through. Meaning nahi pata hai, you'll be trapped in these kinds of the questions. Okay, let's try these 2 questions again, and I'll give you a minute or 2 and then we'll discuss them. I am assuming that you guys are doing these questions. Shall we discuss? Okay, let's discuss this, right? So I'm assuming that you guys have read the instructions carefully. So you need to pick up that particular word here. So cat में आता है ना, cat में we what we've seen is that we've seen odd one out. So उसमें हमें क्या करना होता है? We need to pick up the sentence which is actually an odd one out, and that is you can see what is the difference between cat paper and the OMATs paper, especially SNAP and NMAT, right? So यहाँ पे भी odd one out का concept आया है, लेकिन it is again not a reading intensive. It is vocabulary oriented, and this is what the difference is between the VARC section of CAT and that of SNAP and NMAT, right? So odd one out निकालना था, इसमें भी हमें the correct answer here for the first question is ignominy. Okay, now eulogy, panegyric, glorification, okay, all of them actually stands for praises, honor, okay, whereas ignominy is, you can say, loss of honor, it's an embarrassment, shame, okay, that is the meaning. So all of them are positive and this is the negative, so this is an odd one out, right? Similarly, adroit, adapt, and dexterous, they all stands for clever, intelligent, okay, so that ways, right? Whereas an awkward is inept, clumsy, okay, so that is actually the opposite here, right? And this is also not, again, I mean, like simply simple questions, you know the meaning, you'll be able to do it. You don't know the meanings, you'll not be able to do that, right? This is basically known as fill in the blanks question. जो लिखा हुआ था ना वहां पे fill in the blanks एक टॉपिक लिखा हुआ था, ये sentence completion लिखा हुआ था, and this is a very important topic when we talk about vocabulary. A lot of papers put this particular question. ZAT का vocabulary का ये favorite question type है. They put a lot of sentences based fill in the blanks questions. Okay, vocabulary अगर ZAT ने देनी है. So what is happening in these kind of the question is that they are giving you the sentence, okay, sentence mein they have put the blanks, okay, you need to pick up that particular option that fits the blank correctly, okay. Now before I'm getting into the answer to this question, let me help you with this. For example, agar sentence hai Rohit was dash on the death of his pet dog, right? So what kind of the word do you believe can fit this particular sentence? So Rohit was dashed on the death of his pet dog. What do you believe could fit in this sentence? Rohit was upset. Yes. Okay. Sad. Right? How do you know कि यहाँ पे word upset or sad आना चाहिए था? Okay, yes, we got the hint. It is death of his pet dog, right? So similarly, in these sentences, you need to look for the keywords. Okay, the keywords will going to give you an idea कि इन blanks के अंदर क्या आ सकता है. Okay, let's read the sentence. The one thing that you need to keep in mind, and I'm assuming that you have not done that, is that suppose that you're picking up the option number A. Okay, so that means that the constitutional will go for the first blank and the weather will go for the second blank. Okay, you cannot do that. You cannot pick constitutional and you cannot pick learning. Okay, then in that case you end up marking two options. Okay, वो possible नहीं है. So यहाँ पे वो possibility नहीं थी, but in the paper of course you will not be able to click that. But this is also constitutional है, तो constitutional इधर जाएगा, whether is blank में जाएगा. Let's read this sentence now. So every human being after the first few days of his life is a product of two factors. Okay, so every human being after the first few days of his life, I mean like newborn, okay, is a product of two factors. अब आपको पता ही चल जाएगा कि थोड़ा सा अगर हम दिमाग लगाएंगे कि अगर हुआ ही है, वो बॉर्न ही हुआ है आफ्टर फ्यू डेज, तो वो किन दो चीजों का फैक्टर्स होगा? वन तो जेनेटिक्स का होगा ही होगा ना. ओके, सो दैट इज द केस. सो every human being after the first few days of his life is a product of two factors. On the one hand, there is a genetic endowment. Okay, so constitutional बन जाएगा नहीं, पर्सनल नो, इकोनॉमिक आ जाएगा फ्यू डेज में ना. ओके, सो इट कैन बी आइदर congenital or genetic. Both stands almost the same in the meaning. Okay, and on the other hand, there is the effect of environment. Okay, अब environment including education. Okay, it cannot be pedagogy. Okay, pedagogy is actually a method of teaching. Okay, so teaching किस तरीके से पढ़ा रहे हैं, that is basically pedagogy. So he cannot be the product of pedagogy. What he can be the product of the education. Okay, so that is the case that the correct answer here is option number B. Did you get this? Right? Okay, okay, let's see the next question. Let me know in case if you have any queries, we can stop and we can go back to the previous slide and discuss. Is it done? Shall we discuss? Okay, so Prateek is saying A, B, A. Let's see. Give me, don't type this A, B, A, okay? It's better that you give me the option number, that which option will you go for? Okay, let's discuss this thing, right? Uh, So this is a kind of the question, no? I'm like when I was telling you कि NMAT और SNAP में English में क्या आता है? There was a one thing or the term that was written similar sounding words. Okay, so these are similar sounding words, but one or two definitely you can see in some of these kinds of questions, no? जब हम स्नैप और एनमैट की बात करते हैं, so there you can see an amalgamation of a grammar and a vocabulary mixed together. Okay, so core vocabulary या core grammar के questions नहीं होके there could be a mix up of the two, right? So let's see the very first question. So the cricket first sentence, the cricket council that was or were. Okay, now here there is one grammar rule that is applicable. Now the cricket council is basically a collective noun. Okay, and collective noun in the most of the cases it is actually treated as singular. Okay, when the members of all the group are standing together as a single unit, right? So the cricket council, since it's referred to a single group or a single team or a collective noun, and collective noun is treated as singular, so the correct version here would be the cricket council was elected last March, okay, is at sixes and sevens over new rules. Okay, so that is the case. Since the entire, अब इसमें subject verb agreement भी लग रहा है. In case if you have seen couple of our videos on English language, we have done this topic in extensive, right? YouTube पे करा हम लोगों ने. So this is subject verb agreement, that in a sentence you need to identify the subject. Subject क्या है इसके अंदर? Cricket council, which is actually a collective noun. It's a single group and it is supposed to be treated as singular. Okay, so then in that case the cricket council was elected last March is at sixes and sevens over new rules. Okay, अगर आपको ये चीज पता चल गई होगी, you could have easily eliminate option number A, option number C and option number D. Okay, last sentence में किसी को भी इतना दिमाग लगाने की जरूरत नहीं है, because अगर हम options के उससे करते हैं then both of them are saying A. Okay, and in fact last one was tricky also. Okay, discreetly and discreetly, we'll be getting into it, but this is how you can actually leverage the options also to your advantage. Okay, let's see the second one. The critics censored the new movie because of its social unacceptability. What do you believe could be the answer? So how many of you for A here and how many of you for B? So what is censor, by the way? Censor we all know, right? Censor we all know, censor board hai yahan pe. So ban, right? What is censure? Censure is basically criticize. Okay, so the critics ने क्या किया होगा? बैन कर दिया होगा the new movie. Okay, critics ने क्या किया होगा? उसको criticize. So the correct answer here is B. So what we have got so far is that A, B. अगर मुझे surety होती, then I would have been done with this question. अगर in case if I would be 100% sure कि D में ही ये sequence आ रही है, maybe I was not supposed to read the remaining few sentences. Okay, but we need to have that surety definitely, right? Now Amit's explanation for missing the meeting was credulous or credible. Okay, now credulous, what is credulous? Any idea what is credulous to anyone? Yeah, so credulous is basically who is ready to believe anything. Okay, gullible. Okay, so कुछ भी चीज को believe कर लेता है, right? So that is the case. Credible is a person who is trustworthy, जिस पे भरोसा कर सकते हैं. Okay, so अभी क्या बोल रहे थे? The Amit's explanation for missing the meeting was credulous, gullible. तो वो खुद gullible होगा ना when he gets swayed by every other person. Credible is something that is believable, that is trustworthy. So what we have now is A, B, B. Okay, now she coughed discreetly yet discreetly. Okay, do you know the difference between the two words? Discreetly and discreetly, almost same sounding. So discreetly, this discreetly is basically separately. Okay, or we can call it as individually, right? Whereas discreetly is basically, which is indeed the correct answer. So A, B, B, A, and hence the correct answer to this question is option number D, right? Now this discreetly is in a manner, okay, that you're doing it very smartly to avoid embarrassment. Okay, so what is happening here? So she's cuffing, okay, but she does not want to draw all the attention to herself, and she's doing it in a very smart manner so that it does not cause her also embarrassment. That is basically the meaning of the word. So she cuffed discreetly to announce her presents. Okay, maybe something like this. So that is the discretely. Here separately and individually does not actually fit the context, right? So this is how you get the questions on tricky words. You again know the meanings, you can be able to do this. You don't know the meanings, you'll be trapped in this sense. Okay, so I hope this is clear. Any doubts, any queries so far in this question type, right? Okay, try this question. So now before we get into this, I'll explain you कि इसमें हो क्या रहा है. This is kind of question that's again a part of vocabulary and it is known as cloze test. अभी हमने क्या किया था? We have seen a single sentence, okay? और उस sentence में multiple blanks थे, 2 blanks थे. But here, rather than the sentence, the question setter has has given us a paragraph, okay? And in this paragraph, there are multiple blanks, okay? And you need to pick up the option कि blank one में क्या आएगा? Enforce आएगा, stifle आएगा, foster आएगा, hinder आएगा, diminish आएगा, क्या आएगा? Okay, so this is how the trick for these kinds of the cloze tests is that you need to read the paragraph first. Okay, it's not that कि मैं सिर्फ पहले first blank पे focus करूंगी, फिर मैं सिर्फ first blank को पहले fill करूंगी, फिर मैं second पे focus करूंगी. No, okay. The first thing that you need to do for these kinds of the cloze tests is that you need to read and interpret and understand the entire paragraph as a whole. Okay, जब आपको पूरा paragraph अच्छे से समझ में आएगा, आपको मोटा मोटा theme समझ में आएगा कि paragraph किसकी बात कर रहा है, then you should actually go and started filling in the blanks. Okay, so try this again. I'll give you 2 minutes to do this, all the 4 questions. Okay, let's discuss. I think so. So Pratik has given us the answer very quickly. The fact or real? Okay, so what's the title? Significance of the title? Okay, let's discuss this. So easy one, okay, not a very tricky. So the theme was about the modern corporations and their shareholders and the other aspects. So let's read it. In modern corporations, leadership is measured less by authority and more by the ability to. So less by authority and more by. So हमें क्या चाहिए? क्या word चाहिए? That looks opposite to the authority. Okay, कि अथॉरिटी कम है, मोर क्या चीज ज्यादा है. सो डेफिनेटली अथॉरिटेटिव वाला वर्ड नहीं आ सकता. सो द करेक्ट आंसर हियर इज दैट in modern corporations, leadership is measured less by authority and more by the ability to foster collaboration. Okay, foster is something that actually you can say strengthen something or encourage collaboration, right? So encourage collaboration. Okay, it cannot be enforced because enforce is something that is being done forcefully. Okay, so we need something that encourages, not force on somebody. So that was the one close call, right? So successful managers create environment where employees feel valued and ideas can be debated openly without fear of reprisal. Yet in pursuit, okay, now the tone we can see here, that with this opposite word, okay, thought or reversal word, the tone which was actually now positive, we can now expect it to change to negative. Okay, yet in pursuit of rapid profits, some executives may, okay, so वो कुछ ethical standards के साथ में कुछ negative कर रहे होंगे, and the negative word here is compromise. Okay, so yet in pursuit of some rapid profits, some executives may compromise ethical standards, risking long-term sustainability. Shareholders too are recognizing that unchecked ambition can erode brand reputation. So again, there we can see shareholders too. So ye bhi again the same tone needs to be continued the same. Okay. Hence, firms now highlight corporate governance reports to reassure investors that growth is not achieved at the cost of integrity. Ultimately, the modern corporation must balance performance with accountability. दोनों चीजों को हमें क्या करना है, बैलेंस करना है. Okay, so this is how close test looks like. Generally, what is the trend that is indicates is that in the close test they don't give you a very hefty vocabulary. Okay, they give you easy words, but what they are actually testing is your understanding of the context, कि क्या आपको context समझ में आया है या नहीं समझ में आया है. So that is this close test. Okay, so any queries so far? So I think so I've got 1C, 2B, 3B and 4B. So I've got the correct answers here so far. Okay, so are we good to get into and solve some of the grammar based questions now? So this is how we can see. So I've tried to give you the glimpse of almost all the types of, not all types of I would say, but yeah, majority of the questions that you can see that that test you on your vocabulary. Okay, so we have seen the variety of synonyms, antonyms, close test. Okay, so this we'll solve couple of grammar based questions now to see what they are expecting us from the grammar, and then we'll close the session. So go ahead with this question. No, the factorial, then in that case, just I'll go back to the previous slide. So you say that equate होता है बराबर करना चीजों को. Okay, so how can you equate performance with accountability? Okay, you can equate performance and accountability. Okay, but balance must balance performance with accountability. मतलब performance को किसके साथ में balance करना है. So with is actually showing you किसके साथ. So balance performance, किसको balance करना है performance के साथ, with accountability. Okay, equate तो बराबर हो गया ना, equate कर दो, मतलब performance जितना equal हो रहा है उतना ही accountability equal होना चाहिए. That is not the sense that the paragraph is conveying. So paragraph is saying कि हाँ ठीक है, profits important है, performance important है, लेकिन उसके साथ में हमें क्या चीज को balance करना है जिसको ignore नहीं करना चाहिए, that is actually accountability. So equate will be rigid and equate does not actually go with the word with also. Okay, so ultimately the modern corporation must equate, मस्ट आ गया ना यार. ओके, सो मस्ट तो एक नेसेसरी कंडीशन है कि उनको इक्वेट करना ही पड़ेगा. ओके, सो उसमें द मोर बेटर वर्ड वुड बी बैलेंस. ओके, दैट इज फिजिबल आल्सो. इक्वेट करना वुड बी टू रिजिड एज एन आंसर. आई होप यू गॉट टू क्वेरी नाउ. राइट, ट्राई दिस क्वेश्चन. So I'm assuming that you have read the instructions carefully and you know what you're supposed to do in this question. Okay, let's discuss. I think so. It's a easy, very easy. It's a no-brainer kind of a question. It's a very easy question. Okay. But I'm sure that the problem that you must have faced in this particular question type is that you need to pick up the sentence which is grammatically incorrect, right? And when the question setter gives us this kind of an open-ended question, ना जिससे हमें कुछ भी grammatically incorrect pick up करना है, then we get into this nitty-gritty of actually finding गलतियां, okay, जिसमें नहीं भी होती है. So अगर नहीं भी होगी ना तो भी हमें उसमें लगेगा कि इसमें कोई ना कोई error है. And sometimes the very bleak errors like that of an articles, a ka addition, the ka omission, okay, so that also counters as a grammatical error. So that's the reason that in case if you get the grammar in this concept, it becomes tricky. Okay, now the correct answer to this question is option number C. Okay, ये फिर भी मैनेजेबल था. आई मीन लाइक जो वेरी विजिबल एरर था, आई मीन लाइक वेरी ऑब्वियस एरर, आई वुड से दैट वाज इट इज समथिंग दैट इज एक्चुअली रेफर टू सिंगुलर ना. ओके, इट. ओके, सो वो सिंगुलर प्रोनाउन है तो उसके साथ में why are we putting a plural verb, so it has to be it has. ओके, सो इट हैज बीन ऑलमोस्ट. सो डेफिनेटली सी में तो एरर है ही है. जब सी में एरर है तो ऑल आर करेक्ट तो हो ही नहीं सकते हैं, राइट? सो दूसरों में एरर है या नहीं है उससे फर्क नहीं पड़ना चाहिए अगर आपको यू वर एबल टू सी दिस पर्टिकुलर एरर इन दिस sentence. Okay, so rest of the other sentences are correctly grammatically correct. Yeah, it has to be, it has, right? Try this. So the another questions is on active and passive voice. So in these kinds of the papers, SNAP and NMAT, you can see the questions on direct, indirect speeches. You can see the questions on active, passive voice. So quickly revising the rules. Okay, the one book that I recommended for the vocabulary was Word Power Made Easy. And in case if you wanna go through the rules of Wren and Martin, a very comprehensive rule of grammars, then Wren and Martin is the one book that you can actually refer to. But again, that book has a lot of rules and other things. So which rules to learn? So this is how again I leave it to your discretion. So try this question. Easy, right? Okay. So active passive, Pankita, you need to revise active passive, right? So sentences Gagan Narang and Vijay won bronze medals in the London Olympics. Okay. So active passive voice का rules क्या होता है that we need to add an agent. By करके agent add करना पड़ता है, right? Now, what is written here is one which is actually a past tense. So past tense को अगर हमें passive voice में change करना होता है then we have to use the word was, were and verb की first form. Okay, that was only being done in the sentence number C. So bronze medals हम यही करते हैं ना, subject को object, object को subject बना देते हैं. So bronze medals were one. Why were one आएगा? क्योंकि यहाँ पे क्या लिखा हुआ है one. Okay, so उसको हम कैसे passive voice में कैसे change करते हैं? So we add the simple past into was or were plus verb का first form. So bronze medals were won by by Gagan Narang and Vijay in the London Olympics. Okay. So yeah, so it's in verb second form, right? So that is the case. Now, the problem here is that bronze medals won by Gagan Narang and Vijay in the London Olympics. Okay. So that's not a case. Na, kahan pe kya hua iska? And just one that is not following the rules. We need to add was and were with this sentence. Now, had been and have been, past perfect, present perfect, this should not be the way. Simple past, just add was, were with it and then add the agent with it. So that's a passive voice. But nonetheless, we'll be covering the active, passive and the direct, indirect speeches rules in our classes, regular classes. Try this question. Okay, let's wait for others. Okay, let's discuss this. So everybody is giving me C as an answer. Why you're not liking this passing acquaintance? Okay. Now these type of questions are basically known as phrasal verbs. A very, I would say it's not an emerging topic because the bank PO has kind of, let's say, leveraged this topic to a great extent. But yes, in your NMATs and SNAP as a paper, you do get the questions based on phrasal verbs. Okay. So what are the phrasal verbs? As I told you, stand up, okay, stand out, stand at, okay, yes, stand with, stand for, stand by, right? So these are all phrasal verbs. I hope you got a rough of an idea. We use the phrasal verbs in our day-to-day language. So I wake up early in the morning. Okay, please get up, right? So all these kinds of things. So one that has a combination of a verb, and with verb they have a preposition attached to it. The meaning actually changes. So stand up ka meaning is to stand up, right? Stand out is that you are like a distinguished, okay? You set yourself apart from the rest of the crowd, okay? Stand with, so I stand with you, okay? But I stand for equality. That's the difference, right? Stand by is that something that is not functioning, okay? Standby mode, right? So that is the case. So again, just like in idiomatic expression, the advice that I'll be giving you for the phrasal verbs is that you have to again learn them by heart, okay? But there are a lot of videos and other things that are being done here to make you learn these phrasal verbs in an easy manner. So in case if you can spare some time and you believe that now you're getting bored of the cat syllabus ki bahut vocabulary comprehensive ho gaya ye sab ho gaya, then you can look those particular videos and you can start memorizing these phrasal verbs. That's the only trick, okay? Because when I say stand in, so stand in and wane in, okay, they're the two opposite things. So that does not stands. I cannot give you a commonality ki jiske piche bhi up laga hoga wo definitely wo hi hoga, okay? So that is the case that just like a simple vocabulary words, you need to learn them by heart, okay? Now the correct answer here to this question, so let me just have a glimpse. So Satyam has given me the correct answer. So the correct answer here is the option number 4, okay? Now let's see, I know you are on a diet, but this pie is a way too good to pass up, okay? Way too good to refuse. So pass up ka meaning is refuse. Now you can see here, stand up, get up or pass up, okay? There's no commonality ki up ka matlab wahi hai. Here the pass up basically refers to refuse, okay? So here the context is absolutely correct. When I pass away, that means that I die, okay? So that is also correct. Now Jim asked me to help fix his computer for him, but I'm afraid I only have a passing acquaintance, okay? That means that I have a slight knowledge, okay? Little knowledge, maybe a superficial knowledge, okay? So that is the meaning of the word passing acquaintance, okay? And that's again a phrasal verb. So passing acquaintance is absolutely correct, okay? The problem was there in the fourth sentence. She is not the one to pass off an opportunity for promotion, okay? So pass off is basically when you actually pretend to create a false identity. That's what I would say, okay? To pretend to create a false identity. So maybe let's say the con men passed off blue glass material as sapphire to me, okay? So he passed off, that means कि उसने क्या किया? He created the false identity of that blue glass material and he created a false identity of it as a sapphire, okay? So that's the clue. Sorry. So she is not the one to pass off an opportunity. So pass off nahi aana chahiye. The correct phrasal verb here should be pass up. Okay, pass up kya hai? To refuse. Okay, so she is not the one to refuse an opportunity for promotion. Okay, so here the pass off was actually an incorrect phrasal verb. Okay, so I think so with this note, let's actually close the session on Snap and NMAT. We're going to see you soon with more of the questions like this. Okay, but this was just to give you a break in between. So I mean, like, because all these exams will now be approaching in a month or so, right? So that's the case scenario. I hope you got this concept, you learned something from today's session. Any queries? I'll keep the house open before we get into closing the session. So any queries that you have, any questions that you want me to take back that we discussed? Okay, then in that case, we'll see you soon. Take care and happy learning. Stay safe, study hard, and all the best for your exams. Thank you, class.